Hey there, everybody. I have the privilege today to introduce Heidi Swapp to you. And Heidi is coming on to address a really difficult subject that we just felt so prompted over and over again to address here on this page at Seasons of Renewal. And with this week being, this week is National Suicide Prevention Day, both Jamie and I felt like we need to have Heidi come on and address this subject. If you don't know Heidi's story, I'm going to put a link here just to a quick interview that she did so you can learn a little bit more about her story, because I don't think in her class she's going to go into full detail about everything she's been through. But if you know her story, you know that her son died several years ago from suicide, and she has taken it upon herself to use her experiences and even her pain and everything her family has gone through to help others and to really be a force for good. And I love the way she talks about sharing and memory making, and she sells these products all around the world about memory making, and she's so willing to share those parts of her memories that are difficult in hopes that it will connect and that it will help other people. And that's exactly why we wanted to have her on to teach a class today. So she's really going to be talking today about establishing trust. And when we were asking her for like a course title, she wanted to just say, don't freak out. Really establish that trust. Don't freak out in your conversations and building those relationships with your teenagers. So we are really excited to hear from her today, and we hope that this will help you. And if you know someone that this might help, we would love it if you would share this class with them also. So thank you, Heidi, and we're really excited to hear this class.
Hi there, my name is Heidi Swapp, and I'm really honored to be here during Suicide Prevention Week talking about a topic that is really important to me and that I think will benefit families, moms, relationships, everywhere. And it's a simple topic, and that is don't freak out. About 4 years ago, in July of 2015, our family lost our 16-year-old son to suicide. And as you can imagine, it was just a hugely devastating thing for our family, and especially for me as a mom. It just felt like the ultimate failure as a mom. And over the past few years, as I've searched and thought, what could I have done different? What could I learn? What could I share? One in particular, very important piece of advice has kind of bubbled up over and over. And that is really what I'm here to talk about today. So I learned this concept of being a first responder and not a first overreactor. I think as moms, we can all kind of relate to that. Like something happens and we freak out. Maybe it's the smoothie that you just made and somebody just spills it all over the kitchen, or maybe a wet towel that's left on the carpet for the 1,000th time. And it could be really any myriad of things that just kind of causes us to wonder if anybody's listening, if anybody's home, and so we kind of freak out. And in that freaking out, we kind of establish that our kids might not be able to trust us when something goes wrong. So let me just kind of paint you a little picture. I want you to imagine that you've just been in a car accident. And let's imagine that it's your fault. And let's also imagine that somebody's been hurt. Now, let's say that right after the accident happens and you're sitting there and you're looking around, you're realizing what's happened, and you're starting to, get upset. You're freaking out. Your heart is racing. Now, let's imagine that a police officer comes up to the window and is like, what were you thinking? What were you doing? Were you texting? Were you going too fast? How fast were you going? Look at what you've done, and just absolutely loses it on you, asks you a million questions, starts just pelting you with questions. What would happen to that heart rate that's already racing? What would happen to that sense that you have at that moment? Obviously, it would make it tons worse. You would feel worse. You wouldn't know what to do. And least of all, you wouldn't feel like you could trust that first responder. Now let's imagine what would happen if that officer walked up to the car and said, "Are you okay?" Then reinforced, everything's going to be fine. I want you to take a deep breath. you know, I'm here to help. What would happen then is that you would maybe be able to take a breath. You might be able to think, okay, this is somebody that is here to help me. And you might be able to trust that person. Rather than hammering you with a million questions that you wouldn't be able to answer at that moment, that first responder would then get you out of the car, wrap you up in a blanket, take you over to the side, help you to calm down, and then say something like, "Can you tell me what happened?" That would give you an opportunity to share your side of the story, to talk about it. That officer would listen rather than just assuming the worst, asking a million questions, scaring you, and creating a very unsafe, scary, unapproachable situation. I realized that very often I was that first responder that came to the car, the overreactor, the one that was asking a million questions, that wasn't there to listen, that maybe created an environment that people around me didn't feel like they could come to me when things were scary or hard, or maybe they had done something wrong. I realized that this was something in me that had to change immediately, and something that needed to change in the culture of my home and my family. I started to take very drastic, very real steps, and those are the steps that I want to share with you right now. The first one is to know that when you are freaking out, when you are upset, when you are losing your temper or control of your emotions, you look scary. And so the first thing to do is when something's going wrong is to think about the way your face looks. Are you somebody that's approachable? Are you somebody that can be trusted? Are you an ally in that situation? Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, crap. I've been freaking out for years. And you know what? You're probably right. And me too. And so let's talk about step number 2, which is that you can go to your family members, your children, the people around you, and say, I have realized that sometimes I freak out. I've realized that I'm a freaker-outer. And I want to ask for some forgiveness. I want to let you know that this is something that I want to change and that it's something that I'm going to work on. And so number 1, I'm going to ask for your forgiveness, and I'm going to ask you to help me. Help me to remember that I want to stay calm. Trust me, your kids will help you remember that you said you wanted to stay calm. And you guys, that is a huge help. Staying calm when things go wrong. Whatever that means, whether you have to step away, take a breath, look at yourself in the mirror, whatever that means, do that. Now, my third thing that I want to mention is that freaking out is part of being a mom. It happens naturally, right? We don't even have to practice. We don't have to try. It just happens. And the thing that I wanted to say is that you can have a conversation with your children that when they know there's something that has happened, something that they need to talk to you about and they are afraid to, I want you to give them permission to come to you and say, Mom, there's something I need to talk to you about, but I need you to not freak out. Okay? If you give them permission, train them, teach them to warn you or to tell you, I need to talk to you, but I don't want you to freak out. That is your clue to take a deep breath, to sit down, and to prepare yourself to be an ally and an advocate for your child. Things go wrong, and it can be anything from really bad grades to wrecking the car to telling a lie to just not being where they told you where they would be or whatever would happen. But these freakouts start to destroy relationships. They stand in the way of your kids being able to trust you and for you to be able to respond to them in a loving way. You guys, nothing is insurmountable. No problem is too great. And your children, the people around you, your family members need to know that you are somebody that they can come to and that you are an ally to them and that you will help them figure out a solution. You can't do that when you're freaking out. So that is my number 1 advice. It's for all ages, for all the relationships in your life, work on being a first responder and not a first overreactor. I do have a podcast, and the podcast is with my son's therapist. He's a marriage and family therapist, and we talk about ways to improve your relationships. I believe that the best suicide prevention is connection, is building and improving the relationships that you have with your family members. And that is what we do at Light the Fight. Again, the podcast is called Light the Fight. And I want to invite you to come over and check it out. We are always finding ways for families to improve the relationship, improve the communication, and mostly improve the connection. You guys, thank you for being here. Thank you for your support. Thank you for being open and talking about these difficult topics. I hope you have a great day.